Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin, and thank you to you for joining us, and of course thank you for supporting us as well. The figures are absolutely fantastic on our channel. We're absolutely delighted as ever with our pundits who come on a regular basis. Neil Murray is consistent. Tam, like Ruffy, has a holiday every now and then comes back with us. That's what happens when you get kids. And I'm delighted to say our special guest today is title-winning manager James McPake. After the celebrations as Dunfermline, the first team to win a title this season in the major leagues. So absolutely fantastic. And with that in mind, we thought we'd make the quiz question Dunfermline related. When was the last time Dunfermline won a major domestic honour? I wonder if you can remember what year that was. If you think you know the answer, then just pop it in our feed, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well, as so many of you have been doing on a regular basis. So first and foremost, before we start to throw the tuppence worth in, how do you feel about it? Sum up your emotions. Dunfermline clinching the title with that emphatic win over Queen of the South.
A bit of relief, if I'm honest. Not in terms of relief that we've won it, but I think the 7th of March was that home game to Falkirk where all the talk, the 10,000 crowd and how big the two clubs are, all that kind of thing that followed that about. But from that game, it didn't become, can we win the league? It's when are we going to win the league? And that was the question everyone was asking, and that was tough because we still had a lot of football to play, we had a lot of work to do. So kind of now that it's won, that's gone, and it's a case, particularly for the players, they can go and enjoy it. Like, I'm glad we've still got games to go. It's the first league I've ever won. There were 3 people in the full staff. Dave's won a Scottish Cup, a few of them have won. Paul McGowan's won a League Cup, and he's won a league, but only 3 players had ever won a league in that full group. Three members of the group, even including staff. So it was new for a lot of us, great experience for a lot of us. We have done it in style, we only losing 1 game, and to be fair, see with that gives us a little bit of motivation as well. Because I can, again, because I'm not talking from experience, but because I've never won a league before, but if you win it in the last day or whatever, then fine, or even if you do win it, you've lost 3 or 4 games, whatever. But we're trying to set records, and that gives us motivation to keep going. The players want to keep going, the clean sheet record's been broke. The club's unbeaten run in all competitions since 1885 or 84 when the club was formed, we've broke that, and there's another couple of records that we're trying to break. So we want to get through the season, having only lost 1 game. That still does hurt us now that we're so close to what could have been an invincible season for us, but I think as well on the back of that game was important when we did lose it, because it gave us a refocus, and it allowed us to probably feel that hurt of defeat again, and what it felt like. So, and if we hadn't, and Dave pointed that out to me, if we hadn't, then every team would have been desperate to break that, and be the team that beat us. So I think it was October time whenever it happened against Montrose. But no, more relief, and then probably, I don't want to go back to the promotion at Dundee or talk about that, but the feeling around that, it was COVID, my family weren't there, my kids weren't there, so the really good feeling on Saturday was having my wife and kids on the pitch with me after the game, particularly my youngest kid who was just amazed. She was born during COVID, so she's only 3, and seeing her face, and she's been going into nursery with a cutout for the paper telling all her teachers and pals she's famous. So I feel better for them than I do for myself, because I felt they missed out a lot on the last promotion, but to win a league, no, we're ecstatic, we're delighted.
Well, it just shows you how life, sliding doors moments. You were in here a year ago, James, if you remember, and the whole thing, Tam, was just bewilderment in my part. It's obviously because of I've known James such a long time. Bewilderment in the whole Dundee fiasco.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how your life can just flip.
Great. It's absolutely brilliant, and I think James used the word relief there, and he'd be absolutely right, because I had a wee smile on my face there thinking, it was only a matter of a few weeks ago, I was invited up to the Dunfermline dinner, and I'm not saying they were getting a wee bit carried away, nothing had been won yet, but amongst the prizes that they kept adding in on the night for the fans who were in, it was get your picture taken with the trophy. It was all that stuff, right? And you remember on the night, James, everybody saying, calm down, by the way, calm down, we've seen bigger collapses than this, but it was all that, have yourself with the championship jersey, and you and your kids can get in the team photo. They were adding in all these extra prizes on it to raise money, but I was thinking, God, can you imagine they had the ultimate collapse? But it was never going to happen. As James said, they lost one game, and you know what I would take out of all that, the crowds, that crowd recently against Falkirk was phenomenal. It was bigger even than a lot of folk had anticipated, and you said you'd maybe about 7,000 at the weekend there. Queen of the South didn't have a big travelling support. Dunfermline should not be in League One. That's the bottom line, you know, and for that reason as well, that's how, and James can tell me if he fancies either of them, but I'm hoping that Falkirk or Airdrie can maybe follow these up as well via the playoffs. Do you think they've got a chance?
I think both of them have a very good chance. Airdrie, and I got criticised for saying this not too long ago. Airdrie, in my opinion, and it is just only my opinion, well, it's not only mine, it's my players and the staff as well, but they're the best team we've played.
All right.
They were in our league, they were 3-0 up at home against us. They got a man sent off, we won 4-3. They've drawn the 2 games at East End Park against us as well. We play them this Saturday. The Falkirk games have been great atmospheres, a great advert for the league. We've taken 8 points off of them, but on their day they can hurt us as well. So I think both of those teams have I think it's almost set in stone now, but it'll be second and third for those two, so they're going to play each other first.
Who else is in the mix still there?
Allo at the minute,
right.
With Queen of the South an outside chance, Edinburgh an outside chance. It's looking likely to be Allo.
And if the Championship was as it is just now, do you think any of the teams would have any fear from Cove Rangers and Hamilton Accies, let's say? I
think those Airdrie or Falkirk, and even Alloa, like on their day, Chipper gets they're a good side, but I don't think, and I hope I'm not annoying people with saying it, but I'm close with Paul, I'm close with John Rankin, but I don't think any of those teams will fancy a Falkirk or a Hamilton over a Falkirk or an Airdrie over 2 legs. Just it's the way they play, they score loads of goals. Both teams are very attack minded. They've got loads of pace and energy in their team, and their game at the weekend, it just showed how close they are. It was 2-2. Falkirk scored the last minute equaliser, and Airdrie will be annoyed at that because they'd have been wanting to finish second for that. But I don't think it matters too much, second and third in this league, because they're home and away advantage. It's not going to, in my opinion, it wouldn't matter if it wouldn't matter to me if it was us that were doing it. But I think both of those teams will give whoever they play a fright.
Do you? I mean, Tab mentioned there, and you said that you're going to be playing against Airdrie, you're going to play Alloa in the 3 remaining games that you have. Does that alter maybe you were thinking of giving guys a rest, but as a manager you've got to be, I don't know, respectful of other managers? Do you need to be that way?
No, I wouldn't say I would find myself in a position where I would feel I need to be respectful to another. I don't mean I don't respect other managers, but with my team selection, then we've got a squad and everyone's contributed throughout the season, so we can, for example, Paul McGowan has started 1 game since he came in. He's the player I've played the most as a manager in my time at Dundee. We've got Nikolai Todorov, who's in about 11 or 12 goals, and he's not started many games, so we've got a good enough squad that we believe we can rotate it, and we've done that. We very rarely, it was something we reflected on, myself and Dave, at our time at Dundee, and we thought we do need to use the squad more. But what we've got, the carrot that's dangling in front of us, is we want to finish a season only having lost 1 game. And all our focus is on Dunfermline Athletic. We're not too bothered about Airdrie, Falkirk and Alloa. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but we're not bothered who finishes 2nd, 3rd or 4th, or what will happen with that. It's almost decided anyway, but no, we're getting into those games like the league isn't won, and because we want to go, we want to have a go at that, and we want to prove that. I think it's 13 points now, so I think we've proved plenty that we're worthy champions, but we want to keep it going. As I said, the players have got records that they're trying to break, and that's a good thing at the minute, that we've got that little bit of motivation, because we've had the conversation, what would it be like had nothing to really play for, with 3 games to go, the league's won, you're on holiday, whatever, but we gave them a couple of days this week, and then we're preparing as normal for the game away at Airdrie.
And of course the other thing about it that Airdrie will have to be prepared for, and you're obviously going to have to pay particular attention to it, James, is the 6 competition winners from the raffle who are actually playing in the game for Dunfermline.
Exactly. Oh, they were going to town, honestly. All your grandwains can win the official team photo for the start of the championship.
Well, I was saying, I was going to say, Neil, I mean, I know, James, you've been quoted as saying that, look, we are where we are. None of this. We deserve to be a bigger club and all this. We get relegated. We have to live with it. We're a League One side, and now we're a Championship side. I mean, for me, Dunfermline, I always thought were a Premier League side.
Aye.
Well, they were. I mean, when I was playing, they were a Premier League team. And James was right, though. I mean, sport's a competitive environment. So you end up where you are at the end of the season, deservedly so. You know, the club were relegated to League One, but what's remarkable from James's point of view as the manager that's gone in there with a squad, I wouldn't say it's dejected, but you've got to lift the squad, you've got to build a new morale, a new team spirit for a new environment, and they go through the whole season just losing one game. The consistency of that's remarkable.
Yeah.
So again, you can say they deserve to go up, and they deserve to be in the league above because they are a big club as well, and they can contribute a big support. And just as added value to the Championship.
I see Dunfermline have for years and years and years. Certainly in terms of your hardcore fans, your season ticket holders, maybe even the size of the town as well. We're kind of like a par with Motherwell, you know, and we've been top flight now for coming up in 40 years, you know. Dunfermline should never have been down in League One. It's a disgrace how they ended up there. But I would imagine that the directors at Dunfermline, I'm guessing they must be wanting Falkirk maybe to join you for that fixture, you know.
Getting back to your question, and I never answered that, I would like them to come up. The Dunfermline fans will hate me for saying that, but that's fine. But
Dunfermline fans, sure, they'd love.
It's that atmosphere.
4 games against Falkirk.
Yeah, to be fair, see, I've played in the Edinburgh derby, which again, that's massive, as we all know. But the Dundee derby's a bit different. That's a friendly rivalry where it's still for 90 minutes they hate each other and everything that goes with it. Then you go to the pub. Some of them go to the pub with a tangerine shirt on, some go with a dark blue and they have a beer. But I couldn't believe the Falkirk and the Dunfermline one. It was mayhem.
But when I was there as a reporter in Edinburgh at Radio 4th, the Dunfermline Wraith Rovers games were special.
Aye.
They've told me about them as well and said how big a rivalry that is. And look, fans want to see it.
Yeah.
Players want to play in it. Like that night at East End Park, when it was a freezing Tuesday night, like a rearranged fixture, and they could have, if we could have got the other party stand open for safety, we couldn't because of safety reasons, but that would have sold out as well. That was the biggest crowd in a decade.
What do you mean safety reasons?
I don't think the toilets were working.
Right, okay. I was just thinking because it looks alright to me.
I know, there was a wee part because we did try and get it open through the weekend, it didn't pass, but that night, and look, I played in some big games, and I'm not want to compare it to cup finals and stuff like that, but that night the place was electric, and it's those days and nights like that when you're a player you love, but you miss that as a manager.
Aye.
But see, when you get it as a manager like that, it was amazing, and the place was nearly full by the time we came out for the warm-up. They stayed to the end, obviously because we won, but fair play to Falkirk, I must say as well, because they brought 2,500 down.
Yeah.
And we went there a couple of weeks ago, and I think the tickets sold out within 20 minutes for 2,500 at the Falkirk Stadium.
Brilliant.
So that's why I want them up, because you're guaranteed for cracking atmospheres.
And again with Falkirk, they should not be down there as well. And we were talking on the radio the other day about, I don't know what got us on to, but great documentaries. I've watched a lot of folk are raving now about this Lewis Capaldi one. It's meant to be absolutely brilliant. I watched a cracker, highly recommended, called The Rescue. Now if you've seen the movie about the Thai boys football team that get caught down in the flooded cave, the film was great, but the actual documentary, it was on Disney Plus. I got it on the other night. But if you're really struggling for a bit of entertainment that will have you on the edge of your seat and you've never seen it before, the Falkirk fans meeting last year at the Enshire Grange Hotel. Wow, what an you know, and even if you didn't even know where Falkirk was in the map, if you'd never been to a Falkirk game, you couldn't take your eyes off it. And basically there was such an atmosphere at that event simply because of the state Falkirk had found themselves in. They should have been doing there as well. You remember when they were getting teams like Hearts 1,000 and the top flight, and everybody was talking about wee Kevin McAllister and all the rest of it. That was a great thing about Dunfermline. I was so delighted he spoke to me, because at our era, Peter, at the Dunfermline do when I was there, they introduced him up onto the stage today, so I had maybe pick a raffle or something, and it was, you're talking about how Dunfermline used to be, Neil, and it was John Watson,
Yeah.
the great goal scorer there. Now, the old kind of reddish brown,
Hair, yeah.
That was the grey hair and all that, but I thought, wow, John Watson, you know, and you remember that era. And here's a wee trivia question. Dunfermline are responsible for an Old Firm manager having a 0% win record. Name the manager.
Is it Wim Jansen?
No.
A 0%. Oh, is it a one-off? He was.
That's the question.
Yeah.
No clues. Neil?
Is it
somebody
Ian
better
Durant?
jumped in. Ian Durant. Well done.
Yeah.
Remember the game? Dunfermline raced
yeah.
in. It was a cup game actually.
Was it 4 each?
Was it? No, it was 3. It finished 3-2.
It was East End
3-2.
Park.
But Dunfermline raced into a 3-0 lead.
Yeah.
And Ian Durant had just been put in maybe in the back of Le Guin. Would it have been?
It probably would have been, yeah.
And they get 2 goals back in that, but that's how it finished. And then Rangers moved on. So it was,
Right.
I think it was Ian's only game as manager.
I was with Ian the other day, and I'll mention that to him in a text. he'll be happy because his only claim to fame, when I was sitting next to him the other day there, his only claim to fame was, see, when you get up on the stage, Pedro, he says, mention I've scored 5 Champions League goals, 3 more than McCoy's. And I thought, well, that'll go down a storm, you mentioning that. By the way, I've got to say to everyone on the feed who are wishing James all the very best and congratulations. There's so many people just saying well done to you for winning it with Dunfermline. I think a lot of people truly delighted, and a lot of people obviously will have memories of Dunfermline and the great days, great players. Certainly that question we have goes back a considerable amount of time, but I certainly remember great players playing for Dunfermline. You might want to throw a few in if you can and remember them, and we've got lots more to talk to James about.
Doug Rugby for a while.
What?
Big Doug went there,
After Chelsea?
Doug was there the year that Mull won the cup. We went there. We were like the Harlem Globetrotters, and they run up to the cup, and we went there. Dunfermline won 5-0, and it was great. And Big Doug Rugby was playing with Dunfermline, and I forget about things like that.
Van Cosma, he was the guy, wasn't he?
Man, he was the man. Yeah, absolutely.
They also had another centre half, Milos Drzic.
Oh, I remember that
He
name.
would do Cruyff turns in his own box.
Is that right?
And lose it.
Yeah. Yeah. I always
club.
Well, when I was there, I think
up.
Norrie McCarthy and all those guys were all there, and it was a great atmosphere. It was absolutely fantastic, you know.
And dare I say it as well, Peter, we're only another promotion away for getting Stevens Bakery Bridies back in the top flight. That's another thing folk forget about Dunfermline. The Bridies are like skateboards, you know. They've been sadly missed for top flight football.
The great thing about Tam, when he comes on here on a Tuesday, you get a chance to find out what you want to watch on Netflix. You can watch things.
Disney Plus.
Oh, yeah, exactly. He's got Disney Plus. He's got the whole thing. And don't forget PLZ cooking at midnight tonight. Tam will tell you exactly those big pies are like skateboards.
And an update in Ruffy, hopefully. But you need to tell your regulars how is the big man.
Oh, he's all right. He's all right. I don't want to discuss his medical situation. I don't think he wants to either.
But we've talked about James. You've got a wee bad leg now, haven't you, James?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're getting advice for Peter, what was it you got done again?
Resurfacing. Have you done, Neil? No,
over the Easter holidays, my wife over the Easter holidays got a breast reduction operation, and I must say she looks much better with just the 2.
You're going to get battered. You're in the spare room.
A strange look.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, you can watch Star Trek. You'll see his wife on it there with before the breast reduction. Quite a few people.
What's that, mate? You see your own Star Trek.
Here's Andrew.
I wouldn't say as bad as that.
Here's Andrew Breslin, who mentioned a player who was a favourite of mine. I thought he was a great player. Craig Brewster.
Oh, aye.
Craig Brewster was what I call that classic centre forward. You could hold the ball up.
It was outstanding.
And he could bring people in from the midfield, couldn't he?
And I think if you'd asked Stevie Crawford just how important Craig Brewster was to him, then he would say he helped him get as many Scotland caps as he did. He helped him score the goals. Craig Brewster was fantastic, and another one, when you do speak to Dunfermline fans, he's a massive favourite for them.
Yeah, and another wee question. I like when it turns into a pub quiz.
Yeah.
Who was Dunfermline's Panenka?
Oh, he chipped in at penalty.
It was against Airdrie. It was a League Cup semi-final.
Against Hibs, was it not?
Was it?
Jim McIntyre.
There we go.
Yeah,
Jim did one of them.
Jim, yeah.
Would you ever have, I don't think you were never a penalty taker, Neil, would you have ever had the balls to try one of them?
Scottish Cup replay as well. Semi-final replay at Hampden.
I can always remember, I mean, apart from the absolute, I mean, Parenka 76 is phenomenal, but if you're talking about the domestic game, Andy Walker did it against Gordon Marshall for Ayr United against Kilmarnock down at Somerset. You know, I think he knew what way Marsh was going, he thought, I'll just dink it into the middle, you know. But it takes a bit of bottle, doesn't it?
You do that in an Ayrshire derby as well, because mind, but the games used to be like,
absolutely.
I used to get into them for fun. There was a whole period about 20 odd years ago, and they seem to get drawn out the hat in both cup competitions all the time. Ayr and Kilmarnock, see me went in, you had sites like Frank Connor with his stick running up and down ready to do a linesman weight and all that. They were meaty affairs.
By the way, I've just got to mention Robert Rowan, I think actually mentioned somebody that I was talking to the other day. I'm going to name drop like hell now, by the way.
Here we go.
Alex Ferguson was at Dunfermline as well. So just shows you, if you come back down through the years, some of the great players that played for the club. Jock Stein in 1961 won the Scottish Cup with Dunfermline. That's not the answer to the question, incidentally, but you can go as far back as that. Just on that point, and this is the thing that I think a lot of Dunfermline fans will be hanging on your every word, you know, couple of days after it, great, everybody's waiting for the trophy, they'll come, you know, in your game at East End Park before the end of the season, but you must look at it and you say you had 11 draws, you know, and you'll obviously, I think Craig Wighton, I can remember, I don't know, you will definitely remember it more than me, but I can remember going up as a journo to Dens Park and everybody was raving about him at 15, 16 years of age, Craig Wighton, and then he picked up an injury and I just think it done him in.
Are we talking about the draws or Whitey?
Well, I'm talking about Whitey because he's scoring the goals, and I think you know yourself that Craig's going to need help. That's the pressures of you. You know right away. You think, okay, with 11 draws, I would have liked more wins. I'm nitpicking here, looking at it and saying, okay, you get that great run of undefeated, but you had 11 draws in that league, and you're going up a division. Whiten scored what, 14, 16 goals maybe?
18 now after 18, Saturday,
right.
Yeah.
So you're going to need somebody to help him.
No, we are. We've got, to be fair, when we came into the job, we had 3 senior strikers and Lewis McCann, who's a younger one coming through, but we had Craig, Nikolai Todorov and Kevin O'Hara. So we were quite happy to run with that at the time. Craig's done a fair chunk of pre-season, you're right. He's someone I know really well. I played with him at Dundee, I done rehab with him, I tried to sign him back at Dundee. His knee wasn't right at the start of the season. The club were great with that. They sent him to, again, it's probably, I'm not just a manager, I'm a consultant in medical stuff. They sent him to the surgeon that seen me, and he gave him the okay in London and some exercises, and then when we eventually got him fit and got him going, then he's taking off. I do think he'll be better next year. I still think he's not carrying it, but it's the confidence that comes with playing game after game, training and doing all that. Now? 25.
Oh.
And like that, he seems to have been about for ages, just because he made Dundee's youngest ever player, Dundee's youngest ever scorer. So everybody looks at Craig, and I done an article through the week on him. Like, he went, for me, he was put on a pedestal at Dundee, he was modelling the strip, he was doing all this when he was 15, 16, and I felt sorry for him at the time. He scored the goal that relegated United as well, that then put him up again, and he gets his move to Hearts, and it didn't really work. He had another wee niggle with his knee, and that's when I tried to bring him back to Dundee, but for whatever reason it didn't work, and then he was one of the first I called when I got the job, because I know just how good he can be. I think he does need this season to finish, get a proper pre-season, and not just physically, but for his head as well, because he now knows he's played a lot of football, he's scored a lot of goals, his body can handle it, and then he'll be better next season. But no, we do, the draws are something that annoys us, because like you do, you sit and you look at when you can win a league, how many points you need, and there's maybe 8 games in that if we hadn't missed a penalty, if we hadn't conceded 2 goals against Peterhead late on, the league would have been done ages ago. So that's been the kind of wee bit that's annoyed myself and Dave, and probably all the fans as well. And it's a lot of the draws have been at home as well, where we've struggled to break teams down. So you're right, we definitely, and that's the one thing that we've been pretty clear on, that we do need quality. We need to add quality to the squad. We're going up a division, but not just that even if we stayed in this division, we're wanting we're always wanting to grow the squad and make it a better squad, so that when we eventually do get to where we go, we can be competitive. And I managed for 2.5 years. It was cut, or a half a year was because of COVID, but I just know how demanding that league is as well. And when you historically, when you look back on that league, the teams that do get promoted from it, I've got players that will hit you 20 goals a season, and then I've got other ones that will get 7, 8, that you're 10s, you're 12. So yeah, we definitely need to.
Have you still got the classic sit-down meeting with the chairman to come before the season ends about what's expected of you next year, what your budget's going to be, where you're looking to finish? I mean, is next year a matter? I mean, we've seen teams rattling through the leagues in recent years that have appeared from anywhere. We know Dunfermline's a big club, but is next year, I don't know, is it still about stability? Or they think, no, we want to get right up at the top?
No, but gee, to be fair to them, the owners are great, and I'm not.
German owners.
Yes, yeah, and I'm not just saying that, but I think probably from December time, we've had the recruitment meetings weekly on Zoom with the chairman, David, with Thomas, myself and Dave, and it's not just been for the immediate January window and then the February loan window. It's been what are we trying to do next year. We've knew the budget for a while. Not even depending on what league we're in, they are looking for stability. That's what they want, and I'm sure he'll not mind me saying it, but Thomas, one of the main owners, said that next year the first aim is to stay in the league. And then whatever happens after that, and it's a great way, and a great confidence boost for us to just know that. But obviously you've got your dreams as well. We've been in the Premier League managing, we want to get back to that. Could it be next year? We don't know. We've signed the contract to 2026, it might take to then, or we might be out the door. That's just the way football works. But no,
or you might be at St Johnston. Let's mention it, the elephant in the room. I mean, James's very successful duo is James and Dave Cup tie Mackay, St Johnston legend when they won the first bit of silverware, pre the double with Callum Davidson under Tommy Wright. So he'll be highly, highly thought of at St Johnston. You imagine at St Johnston, might be looking for a young, vibrant, thriving management team, somebody that's shown that they can do it. They've done it in the lower leagues. I reckon it's worth a tenner.
It's just a call here from the Germans. Do you want to speak to them, by the way? Just on that point, I mean, listen, everybody looks at people who have got a bit of success. When you look at the situation these guys find themselves in, you suddenly go up into the Championship, you look at the quality that's in the Championship, it's going to be one heck of a battle to get out of it. I mean, I can understand why the guys are saying, look, stability, there could be some real class going down from the Premier League into that division.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, we discussed it earlier about how Dunfermline is a big club traditionally. They've got good support. James will know the players and the areas that he's looking to improve. He's got a good squad at the moment with a little bit extra quality. They'll be very competitive in the Championship, I'm sure, and as Tam said, Queen's Park have rattled their way through one division, and they're close to maybe going up this year, so it's possible, and especially when you're on an upward curve and you've got that confidence, like Wighton scoring a pile of goals, and confidence means a lot to players, and touching on what James said earlier about playoffs, Falkirk and Airdrie finishing second and third and having the confidence to play against a Hamilton or an Arbroath or a Cove who are actually in a downward spiral or not winning so many games, that can also count for something. So, Dunfermline on the up with a few new additions and a bit of expectation, not to win the league, not to maybe go up, but I'm sure they'll be very competitive.
Well, we were talking about it in the preview there, James, and only too well. I mean, Callum Davidson, for me, being sacked, just as a personal point of view, I'm absolutely gobsmacked by it. I'm gobsmacked by it because it's one of a number of managers who have been bulleted, not only here but down south as well. There's this trait of this quick fix. Everybody laughed when I think one of the Boer brothers went in at Crystal Palace and lasted 4 games. Frank de Boer. You're now in a situation where Sean Maloney get 19 games gone. Robbie Nielsen, Callum Davidson's won a double, gone. No,
Jack Ross. 10.
Yeah, absolutely. All gone. And no stability from a board. It's a crazy situation managers find themselves in now. Do you have sympathy first and foremost for Callum?
No, I certainly have sympathy for him. I really like Callum and I respect the job he's done. I was managing against him last year in the Premier League, and probably at the time it was between them and us who was going to end up, or them and Dundee who was going to go down and the automatic relegation place. Callum managed to keep them up in the playoffs and done a great job, because going back to what Neil says, that's a great point. Dundee faced that against Kilmarnock, where Kilmarnock had fought all season to get away for the playoffs. We at the time at Dundee we finished second in the league that year on the last day, so we were on a good run, on a high, took care of Raith Rovers pretty comfortably over the 2 legs, and then we went into the Kilmarnock game with real confidence. They had 28 years of history, and Tam's talked about the history of Motherwell. Kilmarnock had 28 years of history in the Premier League hanging over them at that point, and for Dundee it was just a case of we want to grab that. We were confident, we were winning games. I don't know when Kilmarnock last won a game. I'd need to go and look at it at that point, so yeah. It did that helped us a lot that season, and that will be the case. And I'm rambling on. What were we talking about again?
A couple of points about
Callum Davidson.
With Callum, I mean, unimaginable. I keep going back to talking about wagers and the bookies, but if 2 years ago when they had won a cup double, if anybody said to you, what price Callum Davidson getting these jotters 2 years from now, you'd have laughed, you'd have said, what are you talking about, But it just shows you what football is like. And again, another stat that really backs up what exactly Callum has done, it was Neil that told us before we started how many clubs have done the double in Scotland.
Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen.
Right.
And then St Johnston
the fourth.
Yeah.
And all for all time, That's incredible, but it all boils down to that eventually, and it's well documented as well that I used to think it was just an urban myth, but in terms of the money that St Johnston make for the crematorium behind the stadium compared to what they make with the turnstiles clicking, there's apparently no much in it, what I mean? And but where I find it's ridiculous. I know boards will hit the panic button, and they've done this with Callum of that, there is no doubt. But if you take away the double, Callum clearly made a rod for his own back with that. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, but he did made a rod for his own back by winning the double. They're expecting that all the time. But if he hadn't won the double and he was still 5 points out of danger in the league, that's kind of the way St Johnstone have been historically for certainly all the years I've been watching football. And I don't think they would have hit the panic button. But
you all have to look at managers and how things can flip. Aberdeen, Jim Goodwin, doesn't work. All of a sudden, Dundee United spark, and they look as if they're showing enough fight to get out of it. When I thought they were done and dusted with Kilmarnock. Who knows?
Going back to what Tam said, wouldn't you say if you'd have got a bet on Callum getting sacked 2 years later? Go back the other way. What would the odds have been if you'd have went in 2 years before and said St Johnstone are going to win a domestic double? They would have sent you at the bookies. So that just shows you the achievement that Callum he made there. And what really saddens me for him is that people will remember him probably for this season. And maybe in time they'll go back and say, he won the double, but at the minute, and some of the things I've read, it was the right time. He wasn't doing this, he wasn't doing that. It's short memories people have got.
And I don't know how it works behind the scenes. I pay my money at the gate, I buy a season ticket, and that's that. But something strange in my mind about putting Callum's assistant in there. I'm guessing to the end of the season. I don't know what, but
well, they said there's no rush to appoint somebody.
Right. Well, if there's no rush, but I know that you get different personalities. James will be a different personality to Dave Mackay when the two of you are in the training ground. Not, but it does seem strange to say, no, this isn't good enough. You're getting punted, but the guy who you've been joined at the hip with, we're putting him in charge. That just seems a bit strange.
Yeah, listen, strange times. Managers have to do it on a quick fix, and I don't think there's too much time or credit in the bank, even if you do win a double. Give us your thoughts on that, St Johnston fans as well. There's this weekend as we head towards.
Can you get, by the way, sorry to butt in, can you get the McBookie odds before the end of the show? Because there'll be a book up already about the St Johnston manager.
Yeah,
and there's always one. They never miss a trick.
And now, if you want.
A cup of tea. Never had one since we. Honestly, since how long we've been in this studio now, you never arrive here and say, "You want a cup of tea, boys? You want it? Don't you? You have a cup of tea on you."
Yeah.
Hey, do you know that Stephen Craigan? I'm great with my trivia of the day.
Yeah.
Stephen Craigan has never had a hot drink
in his life.
Aye, Stephen Craigan. He's never had tea, coffee, cocoa.
Why not?
It's a thing he doesn't. He's never liked the idea of it. If he was a kid,
I second
a
that.
hot drink.
Do you know where it comes from though? For me, when you were 10, 11 and it was freezing cold and they produced a hot orange at half time, totally put me off hot drinks. That.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Is that right? Wow.
Texture, no good.
That's a strange thing. And you know what I love about you, James? You're looking at these two as odd as I'm looking at them. As if to say, you're a rocket. I love that look, James. Exactly what I was thinking. Anyway, there's a battle going on this weekend for the top 6. There's a few clubs a little bit scared about what might happen here. Our reporter Adam Binney's been having a look at the permutations.
As we head into the final week of pre-split Scottish Premiership football, we take a look at the race for top 6. Hearts, St Mirren, Hibs and Livingston are the only clubs remaining who could still end up on either side of the split. All 4 clubs are fighting for 3 positions and will be playing against the bottom 4 clubs in the league this weekend. But who needs what to secure top 6 football after Saturday? The Jambos are pretty much mathematically safe. Even if they lose to Ross County this weekend, they would need St Mirren, Hibs and Livingston all to win and for there to be a 19-goal swing between themselves and the Lions. Hearts would need to lose 10-0 and Livy would need to win 10-0 for Hearts to throw away a top 6 finish. St Mirren are at home to Kilmarnock, who haven't won an away tie all season. All the Buddies need is a point at home against a side who have managed to pick up just 2 points on the road. The only way a draw would not be good enough is if, in addition to a Hibs victory, Livingston managed an 8-0 win. After last week's Edinburgh Derby win, top 6 is within Lee Johnson's side's grasp. It's simple: beat St Johnston in Perth on Saturday and top 6 is confirmed. However, draw or lose, then a win for Livy below in 7th could eject the Highbees from their crucial 6th spot. They're up against a St Johnston side who are winless in 6 and sacked legendary manager Callum Davidson last week. Given their poor goal difference, top 6 is not in David Martindale's side's hands. No matter what, they need to win. A point will not be good enough under any circumstances. Unless they can pull off the aforementioned unrealistic goal swings, Livy are relying on St Mirren to lose or Hibs to lose or draw. They travel to Dundee to face Dundee United, who are fighting for their lives at the bottom of the table, but they've won their last 2 matches. Well, let us know what you think. Who will make the top 6 and who will miss out? Let us know in the comment section below.
Do you think there's going to be a wee twist?
Well, I think possibly, according to the Adams reporting, you've only got Hibs and Livy. These are the key games, I think, aren't they? If Hibs slip up and Livy can do the damage against Dundee United, that's the only twist I think that's possible.
Even a Derby win would be quickly forgotten for Lee Johnson, I think, if Hibs drop out of the top 6.
Aye, I mean, it would be painful for them. You know, I mean, Sean Maloney found that he was in difficulty after not making the top 6. And given obviously the bouncer winning against Hearts, they would like to go into the last game and make sure they make top 6. But St Johnston away is never an easy game.
Yeah.
Did you see the clip? Must have been a Habs fan put it up on social media for the top of Arthur's seat.
Yeah, Sunshine and Leaf.
Yeah. It was absolutely. I mean, the song can give any fan goosebumps, you know, but that was something absolutely special. What a bit of footage that was. It was great.
You've sampled that, James, haven't you? Mm-hmm. It's absolutely it's magnificent. I mean, the thing about it, I thought they deserved to win at the weekend. What did you make of Hibs?
No, they were good. I'm delighted they got the win. First and foremost, that those games are really tricky, and then you add in that it was a different manager getting in, and what does that bring? But no, I thought they thoroughly deserved to win the game. I would be delighted to see them finish in the top 6. It's a club I didn't grow up supporting, but still a club that's really close to me, so I've still got a lot of friends there, and hopefully they can get in there and then see what happens, because if they do get in, then they've obviously got that chance of going and pushing up again and getting that European spot.
Whereas I'll be cheering for Motherwell reserves, Stevie Robinson and co. That's St Mirren. There's so many of them in there, all good guys and guys that you know what it's like, Peter, when you go to and you host Player of the Year dues and then like, you always remember the guys that are great value for getting up on the stage, whether it's having a wee word with them, picking a raffle, and there's so many guys of that ilk that are now first team regulars at St Mirren, so I must admit, and I like Stevie Robinson as well. I'll cheer on the Buddies.
Yeah, even at the weekend, I mean, there's only 2 games that I'm not saying they don't mean anything, but they certainly don't have a greater impact on the outcome of positioning. Celtic are 12 points ahead, Neil, and they're going to play on the Saturday. Rangers play Aberdeen on the Sunday. It's a situation where all Celtic want to do is just break records. All Rangers want to do is just try and keep bouncing back from the disappointment of losing that game.
Yeah, and Aberdeen away is always a big game for Rangers anyway. Difficult game for Rangers.
Barry Robson's on a high. I mean, who would have predicted that 4 or 5 weeks ago?
Well, yeah, that's it. And I think, again, if clubs at home are on a high and they've got that momentum and that confidence, it'll be a difficult game for Rangers. But again, Rangers just need to keep the wolves from the door and keep winning games as much as they can. But ultimately, Celtic will clinch the title.
What? Just clarify that for us. What records then are Celtic? What is it? Points and goals?
Yeah, but I think points is the main one that I think is achievable. They'll go past, I think, Brendan Rodgers.
Invincible one, isn't it?
The invincible one.
If they win all their games, I've got more points than Brendan's invincible team.
The funny thing about it is, listen to Kyle Vassell at the end of the game against Kilmarnock. I thought Kilmarnock were really, really poor. They're the poorest side I've seen in the division, and they're not bottom. But Vassell was quick to comment on the Celtic side that looked as if they were going to give Killie an absolute tanking at the weekend.
When I played like Premier League teams in the Cup, genuinely, the top teams, McGregor's so good. He's so good at football. He runs you away to make space for other players, and you've got Taylor coming to the pitch. Like the way they're organised, and they're so disciplined. They'll just keep the ball. So yeah, my comparison would be a Premier League team.
Well, he reckons they're playing at Premier League level. They are a formidable side. Nobody can get near them. St Mirren was earlier in the season, and he'd made quite a few changes that day. If you're talking about blips, that's probably the only one that Ange Postecoglou's had domestically.
Yeah, they're frightening. They really are. And again, I can go back to last season and trying to manage against them. And now, when I'm watching Celtic, I try and think, how would I set up? What would I do? And I have to turn the TV off because my head just fries.
Yeah. Is it difficult as a manager, and we all discuss it here week in, week out. Michael Beale's had to try and work out how he's going to stop this for the semi-final coming up. Is it difficult as a manager when you say, okay, if we're going to have to stop them, you either park the bus, which is option one, or the second one is you have to say to the players, right, we're going to try the high press, but as you know, players are at certain levels. Some players are just not capable physically and technically of a high press.
Well, I can go back to my playing career as well, and I've played against them where we have just sat in, and I hated it because at some point, against Rangers as well, when Rangers were really good at a point, and you're sitting there and you might get through 20 minutes, but then there can be 20 minutes to go and you're 5-0 down, and you're thinking, and that could be home or away.
Yeah.
That happened to me, and then you think as a manager, I'm going to change it. We done that the first game. We were saying to the players, I think Dundee hadn't beat them at Celtic Park in 25 years, all this stuff. It's a chance to make history. 6-0 we lost, and that was us trying to high press them. But then as soon as you try and high press them, the pressing only lasts for a wee while, and then your free goal's done anyway, and it's damage limitations. The way he's got them, and I don't know if it's just because it's current just now, but I've seen Celtic teams, Rangers teams for years just supporting Scottish football, but that team at the minute, and he says it, they never stop, and I know it's a cliche it's a saying all the Celtic fans hang off, but they are so good. The pace they've got in the team, and I think he's very consistent with his changes as well. It's went a wee bit later recently, to the 70th minute or whatever, but it's at 60 minutes in, there's normally like for like coming on in terms of pace, quality. And imagine being a player on that pitch when you're 4-0 down and you're turning and having a look at where we go again. And
it really hits home as well, Peter, when as this happened too frequently for me, just because I've got a soft spot for him. But when you see a guy that we sold to Celtic for £3.5 million, and he can't get a game, that shows you the gulf. I don't think clubs have any right to feel ashamed or anything like that if they can't lay a glove on Celtic. Domestically, certainly the Just Stop Oil protesters, I don't think could stop Celtic right there. They just seem What I like, if I was a Celtic fan, what I really like about it is that they keep wanting, as if they keep wanting to go and batter teams, maybe until the result is way beyond doubt, because there's no doubt they put the tools away the second half at Rugby Park,
Yeah.
But the other thing with that is, I feel if I was a Celtic fan, it'd be quite frustrating, because you see them just swiping other teams aside in Scotland. Your man there's talking about it at Premiership level, but the bottom line is, just last year they still needed 3 European tournaments. They still get knocked out of 3 of them.
Yeah.
So there's this horrible chasm, whereas they can do all that at Scottish level, at domestic level, but the minute they go up a few notches, then it's a different ball game.
I know they didn't win the game. I watched the game at Celtic Park against Real Madrid, and for an hour or so they were outstanding. They went and done that because I'm thinking, what do you do? Like, you're playing Real Madrid, the holders of the tournament, and the way they pressed him that night for an hour, in the end they maybe did run out of steam, and that's the difference then. But it was amazing to watch them that night. Have you ever seen a better domestic team? Obviously, you have seen a lot more than me. And
I must say the Invincible, the Brendan Rodgers Invincible team was different class. They left you bamboozled.
I know we talked about it yesterday, and Tam and I were discussing it, and obviously the headline that we put out there was just basically Tam agreeing with me. I don't want to knock Scottish football. I think you've got to be realistic, Neil, and for me, the standard out with Celtic and Rangers is not at a level that I think it should be. It's not there yet, and the evidence is stacked up by where they are in Europe, how they can perform. Hearts should have beaten FC Zurich to get into the Europa League, didn't do it. That could have brought 7 million in. Motherwell ended up getting beat with an Irish side. No disrespect to Irish football, but Motherwell should be beating them. The standard over the last decade has dropped considerably, and this season, I'm not taking anything away from Celtic, because I actually think, having spoken to Ange Postecoglou on 2 separate occasions, his job is, well, who cares about the standard? I've got to win for Celtic, which is fine. The second part that I think I got a real strong message from him is he wants to build a side, make players that he's brought in better players, which is every manager's remit. And the second part of it is he wants to put a side together to get a good performance in the group stages and maybe get to the knockout stage. If he gets Celtic to the knockout stage, that for me is a success based on his budget, and that's what he's doing. He's putting together a side that says, okay, if domestically we're battering teams, fine. August to December is when he knows he's going to be judged, and that will determine his next move as a manager. And if he can get Celtic to a knockout stage, out of that group stage, with a team that's playing even better than they're playing at the moment, and he's going to make 2 or 3 signings, I think, in the summer, then that's him achieved his goal.
Yeah, it is difficult. Neil Lennon did it, sure, and he got Celtic out of the group stages. So it's been done in the not so distant past. In terms of other clubs, I think it's difficult for other clubs. It is, for all intents and purposes, cup football. So Motherwell playing Sligo, it's almost like a cup tie, so you qualify, you don't. Hearts the same for FC Zurich. One thing I would say though about Swiss teams consistently beat Scottish teams. Sion beat Celtic, FC Zurich beat Hearts, Grasshopper beat Rangers, Neuchâtel Xamax beat Celtic, FC Basel beat Liverpool, Man United. It's a good level, Swiss football, so it probably wasn't any great shame for Hearts to lose that game, but I take your point. To progress, we need more clubs reaching the group stages. But in terms of Celtic, it's only my personal opinion. But I think Sutton, Hartson, Larson, Burley, Lambert, I think they would beat the Celtic team today.
Well, do you know what the funny thing is? We were talking about it, and I'm not taking a slide at him because I love the big man, Rab Douglas. You're probably talking maybe at a push, the goalkeeper is the only one that would get into the 2003 side from this side, and I hate to actually look at it and say to myself, I am a huge fan. A huge fan of Callum McGregor. He is the best midfielder in Scotland by an absolute country mile. He's better than Hatate for me. I think sometimes we start to look at foreign players and start to glorify them and elevate them beyond what we've got here. McGregor for me, for the last 3 or 4 years, the best midfielder in Scotland. But he wouldn't get into that. Wouldn't get into Martin O'Neill's side. He may well have been a sub, but he wouldn't have been starting in that Martin O'Neill side. That Martin O'Neill side is a Champions League winner. Lennon, who was an absolute terrier, and you had Petrov, who ended up playing Premier League football with Aston Villa at a high level. So he's not getting in there. You know, Didier Agathe was the £50,000 steal of the century. Greg Taylor's a good player, but I would still have played Alan Thompson left side. They've got 3 centre-halves, maybe at a push, Cameron Carter-Vickers as a sub. And the front 2, forget it, you're never getting a game. Kyogo, you'll just need to keep warming up, because these 2 and John Hartson are scoring 30, 40 goals.
Even Marco Viduka and Lubo round about the same time, you know, in for a season or 2 and away. I mean, they had good players and they had a really good group. So again, it kind of got back to Ange, who's done it fantastically well, obviously, but for him to improve the team is to get through to the next stage.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's maybe we're talking about gulfs here, right? So we know then there is that gulf when Celtic get into Europe, but it's maybe about knowing their limitations. We know that Celtic, when you look, I mean, Kilmarnock and teams like that have got no right to even think about competing with Celtic financially on a domestic level. And to be fair to Celtic, when they get into Europe, as great as they did, as you're saying, for that hour against Real Madrid, they've got no right to be competing against Real Madrid. But in terms of finding their level, you should be looking surely at Celtic putting a dent in the second down competition, the Europa League, right? As indeed Rangers did very, very recently, you know. But then the other thing about the golf says, which highlights, you know, maybe the general standard in Scottish football. Aberdeen, who, as things stand on paper, are the 3rd best team in Scotland. That's the same Aberdeen who got knocked out our biggest cup competition by a junior side, and the same Aberdeen, and I'd love you to get all the leagues as they stand right around Europe, right around the world.
Yeah. Is this with the cup of tea as well? And
yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Aberdeen are sitting 3rd in the league with a minus goal difference.
Yeah. I know. By the way, can I just say something? I'm going to mention this because I think Ian Miller makes a great point about the 2003 Celtic side. They were that good that Rangers won the treble that season. You know what I mean? That's a great. I mean, Ian makes a great point. But the 2003 Rangers side was a right good side.
That feeds into your point about how maybe the standard of player back then was also high.
There's no Rangers player getting into the 2003 Rangers side, is there? Really?
Yeah.
I can't think of one. Can you? I mean, I genuinely can't think of one Rangers player that would get in that 2003 Rangers side.
At that time, you know, Scottish football was heavily invested in, shall we say. Clubs were paying high salaries for players, and they were attracting good quality.
And they hadn't sold their soul to Setanta. You know, which is just a fact. I mean, that's
clubs now like Hearts and Aberdeen, for example, are they not probably paying on a par? I know when you take it, the difference in the cost of living and what wages were worth back then, but surely the budget Hearts have got now, Hibs are paying more than they've ever paid.
Do you know what, James? I even think back in the day though, like players like Frank Soze were on more than some of them at Hibs now. And you know, Derek White and Craig Higgin at Aberdeen were probably more than Aberdeen players are getting now. It was at that time there was a lot of money around.
I'm too young to remember that. So
it was a lot of money going around at that point, and then I think there was a refocusing, wasn't there, in terms of clubs were carrying too much debt, and then they cut their cloth accordingly, and you know, we are where we are now. And
well, by the time Martindale had gone and Gordon Strachan had taken, he'd half the budget.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the situation.
You just need to look at Livingston as an example. Go and win a national competition. I was there. They're out of business a few years later because they were paying money that
they couldn't afford.
Exactly.
Top golf money be vulgar to ask about pound, shillings and pence, but on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, that's a bit miserable, 10 being, I'm very happy with that. 1 to 10, how is the bonus for winning the league?
I can't say too much in case my wife watches it. One.
Brilliant. I mean, listen, every penny's a prisoner, especially winning the title for the club as well. And
talk about money as well, Peter. If you've got a sugar daddy out there that loves PLZ and all things PLZ, you know, and particularly now that James has got Dunfermline up there in the Championship. I know we get a wee live game on a Friday night at the BBC. If ever there was a time, because that Championship has been brilliant this year, there's nothing to suggest it will not be as brilliant next year. The old 5:30 show, STV of yesteryear, Football First, and getting all the games on in the Championship, just in a highlight show. I think you should pitch for that for next season.
Oh, they are. get us involved.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
It's a brilliant. I mean, that league is it's absolutely. There's what is it? Still the top 7 are all still in the hunt for something in the Championship. You get right down to is it Inverness?
Yeah.
Where you stop.
Oh,
I mean, you know how this is going to...
Inverness are playing Hamlin.
Tonight.
If they win that, they'll go top 4, won't they?
Yeah, but I mean, that's
7 points between I think the top 7
And I think
teams.
Inverness played Dundee at the weekend as
Yeah,
well. So
exactly.
they win the night, and then you're looking at that.
And that's not going to be the headline, though. The headline is Cowan threatens Amy and Jane Lewis's jobs as PLZ win championship rights.
They'll still do a live game, but you bundle all the
the whole
games
thing's
together. For that would be great. No football fan would miss that.
Yeah, Canberra Jets. There's things.
I can get David McKinney out of the old folks home and see if he's up for it, Peter.
There's a name.
There's a name.
Listen, I don't know if you enjoy all that. I loved having a chat with you guys about all these things, because we try on PLZ Soccer, as Tam rightly points out as well, to talk about every club and bring managers and players in from everywhere just to try and entertain you. Of course, if you do get a chance, and I'm sure James would thoroughly enjoy it, the insight, the documentary we did with David Martindale, my story is
Superb.
it's really, I mean, it's just a great insight into a guy with what a backstory.
No, brilliant, and just on Davy, he's been one of the first texts I got when we got promoted, and just the advice, one of the first texts I got when I get sacked as well. He's been fantastic with me, and I loved watching that, loved seeing what he's done at Livingston as well. And you talk about success stories in Scottish football, keeping that club in that division with the way it is at the minute, never really been in trouble.
Yep.
In terms of relegation or whatever, they're always quite clear. They're now going for top 6.
Yeah.
Now they've had success before. They finished 3rd under Jim Leishman. They beat Hearts 4 times that season, but as we spoke about, they were firing money that they never had. Davy's in there, and anytime you speak to him or you hear him speaking, they do run it as a tight ship in terms of what they pay the players. He works really hard for all the players I've spoke to. I signed Sean Byrne from him. He had Lee Griffiths in, obviously, just helping Lee out, and everybody I speak to just talks so highly of him. For him even to come out and do the documentary, I thought was excellent, because you know, and for you to do it was brilliant. And why can we know more of that? I think that's what fans want to see as well, as we're talking about football.
Absolutely.
Seeing that,
openness.
Exactly.
It's coming, James.
I'll tell you what as well, Peter, with David Martindale though, and they've obviously still got a chance of finishing top 6. I'm starting to feel now that it's now or never in terms of him getting a better job. No harm whatsoever to Livingston or the Livingston fans who hate chat about that, right? And they love David to bits, but he's quoted many a time, and Davy's been very open and honest about it, and he sometimes reckons that his past has caught up with him in that respect, and that some clubs won't take a chance and all the rest of it, but he keeps being quoted, and I do think, just in the off chance they have a couple of seasons where they're away down there, they struggle or whatever, I think it's now or never for him to get a good move.
Now look at Callum, coming back to Callum, there we go, he wins a double a couple of years later.
Aye.
This happens, and this Davy got to a cup final as well.
It is a difficult, job to try and say when is the right time to jump, because sometimes you jump and there's a fear, there's that fear factor. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the right point? I'm at my highest point. Are the circumstances right at the club that I've jumped to? Is everybody sitting fearful of maybe losing their jobs? You've got Neil Lennon there waiting to come back in. Neil Lennon jumped to Bolton. They ended up 174 million in debt. Then he comes back, revitalises Hibs. It's making those calls. I agree with you. I thought Callum should have jumped if there was an offer there, but sometimes you just stay loyal. Sometimes your family circumstances keep you where you are.
Yeah. As Tam's old friend John Boy used to say, 1 minute you're a peacock, next minute you're a feather duster.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about getting your timing right. But again, one thing I would say, is James will agree, I guess, is Scotland's got a lot of good young managers. You look at Robbie's not working, and Jack Ross, and as you say, Neil Lennon. So there are others around that could potentially take your post or your position. So I think for a lot of managers, they back themselves, always back themselves. So maybe they don't decide to take a jump at a particular time because they can keep it going or improve the club. And sometimes circumstances work against you, and you can fall down the pecking order a little bit, and that's ultimately where I think wrongly clubs will I'll press the panic button and get rid of managers.
And the one thing I would say, and I don't mean to, I'm definitely not going to finish in a negative, but it's very, very difficult for Scottish managers to be rated to get the move down south at the moment, because unless they do it in Europe, their standing, their credibility, their acceptance as a decent manager is not there. If they do it in Europe, suddenly, you start to get that teams just outside the top 6 in the English Premier League, and definitely the Championship consider them. But until then, you're finding it very difficult for managers to suddenly say, I'm going down south.
I think the difficult part, though, is as well that in England, they've also got a good pool of young managers in England.
Yes, absolutely.
So they would probably look to English managers first before the Scottish one, and that's where, as you say, you have to do something that's particularly noticeable to maybe attract attention. And football's about timing. Yeah, it's about a club who needs a manager at a particular time when you as a Scottish manager are performing at your best.
You know what else, as Neil says, and he's right, there is a good pool of young Scottish managers, but there's also, it's always growing, because there's players retiring. Like you look at Stephen Naismith, he's just out, so there's always ones coming through. It's always evolving, and there's people will retire, they'll come in, so there's always people looking for jobs. What is there, 46 teams? I don't know, was that 42 teams? So 42 managers in Scotland, and then every year there are probably 42 other candidates coming through that are doing their pro licences, that are wanting into management, and then you've got the ones that are out of work that are wanting back in. So
do me a favour,
I'm just going to stay there, aren't
the pool gets bigger, but the actual number of jobs doesn't.
No, exactly.
That's it,
Yeah,
Peter, I know you're not going to have time for any European preview, haven't you? No, we've run out of time. But for me, and there's others like me out there who prefer Scottish football to the European football, give me my must-watch game midweek. What's the one that I should tune in for? Well, tonight or tomorrow night?
Tonight is almost, I mean, realistically, if you were looking at it for absolute quality, it has to be Napoli AC Milan. That's technical quality.
Right.
But for me, I'm watching Chelsea Real Madrid, because
2-0 down.
I watched Real Madrid. I was in the press box with a guy on the left hand side of me going, "Oh, Celtic, they could take them." And I looked at it and I went, "It is Real Madrid," and they absolutely just went through the gears. And then with my daughter, we went down to Anfield. We watched Liverpool go 2-0 up, and if my 13-year-old daughter can turn around and say to me, "I've seen this movie before, Dad," and I went, "You're right, Real Madrid are going to come back and batter them," and I think Chelsea are going to get battered at Stamford Bridge.
Chelsea Real Madrid tonight.
Chelsea Real Madrid. Then tomorrow night, it's almost certainly
it's got to be Bayern Munich, and you're hoping for an early goal for the Germans.
Bayern Munich, Man City.
The taste there.
Absolutely. Just come to Falkirk FC Edinburgh with me if you want the night time.
Well, see if you can finish this sentence away and take a flat. Anyway, that was absolutely brilliant to have James with us. I have to say, if there's one manager that can relax and enjoy the next 3 games, it's James McPake.
And genuinely, good luck at St Johnston next year.
You're a total nonsense. Anyway, apart from anything else, thanks to Neil, thanks to Tam, and from everyone in PLZ Soccer, congratulations to not only James McPake and Dave Cup-Tie Mackay, but the rest of that club, Dunfermline. It's a fantastic club, and I know they'll be enjoying it right the way to the end of the season when they also get that silverware at East End Park. From everyone in PLZ Soccer, to you especially, thanks for watching.